In the sun-drenched living room of a quiet Arizona home, a tiny kitten named Maple stretched contentedly against warm fur. Not the fur of another house cat, but of juniper. It's a wild bobcat with tufted ears and piercing golden eyes. Every morning, the Holloway family found them like this, the orphaned kitten curled against her unlikely protector. Two hearts beating in perfect synchrony. But how did an abandoned kitten and a wild predator come to share a bond stronger than instinct? This connection hides an extraordinary story. This is the tale of how two broken souls from two different worlds rewrote the rules of nature and found family in the most impossible of circumstances. Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a heartwarming story from Pawthos. Where Wild Meets Wonder, Act 1. The arrival of Mapel, the crisp. October wind carried the sharp scent of creosote and sage through the Arizona desert, rustling the dry brush between the wild and the civilized in the suburb of Desert Ridge, just outside Phoenix. The Holloway family's cozy, ranch-style home glowed warmly in the fading light. Mary Ann Holloway, a retired school teacher with silver-streaked auburn hair, stood at her kitchen window. She was joined by her husband, Dr. Peter Holloway, a soft-spoken veterinarian nearing retirement, and their daughter, Sophie, a 23-year-old wildlife biology graduate who had recently moved back home. Their home had always been a haven, filled with books, plants, and laughter. But lately, it had grown quiet, too quiet. That changed 3 weeks ago. Sophie had burst through the front door, tears in her hazel eyes, cradling a trembling bundle of fur no bigger than her hands. Mom, Dad, couldn't just leave her. Kitten, barely 5 weeks old, had been found under a neighbor's porch, alone and crying. A chestnut-colored fluff ball with 4 perfect white paws and unsure eyes that hovered between green and gold, with shelters overflowing from kitten season. Sophie knew she had to act. Dr. Holloway examined the kitten carefully. Malnourished, ... But she'll make it, he'd said, reaching instinctively for the formula. They named her Maple, after the autumn-colored hue of her fur, reminding Mary Ann of the falling leaves from her Vermont childhood. Those first weeks were grueling. Feedings every few hours, warm baths to remove the desert dust, sleepless nights filled with plaintive cries. But Maple was a fighter. She grew stronger by the day, claiming sunny corners, favorite cushions, and eventually everyone's hearts. Act 2. The Viasito R1 cool evening, as the desert prepared to surrender October to November. Sophie was helping her mom prepare a pot of green chili stew. Maple lounged by the patio door, tail twitching as she watched a roadrunner pass by. Then, they heard it, soft thuds on the wooden deck. Too heavy to be a cat, too deliberate for the wind. Did you hear that? Sophie asked, setting down the spoon. Mary Ann peered out the window and froze. Just feet from the glass door sat a bobcat, magnificent, ragged. Her ribs showed beneath her coat. One ear torn, patches of fur missing, but her eyes ... golden. Intelligent, longing. Peter, get your phone, Mary Ann whispered. We need animal control. But Sophie didn't move. Mom ... Look. Maple was at the glass door, paw gently pressed against the pane. On the other side, the bobcat had done the same. 2 mirror images. 2 lost creatures reaching for connection. When the officer arrived, Jake Morrison, seasoned and skeptical, he expected the bobcat to flee. She didn't. She's not sick. Not aggressive. It's like she's waiting. A trap was set. Nothing happened. Day after day, the bobcat returned. Always to the same spot. Always watching. Act 3. Unraveling the MYSTRY. On day 4, Jake returned with Dr. Helen Reeve, a sharp-eyed wildlife behaviorist from the Arizona Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. After observing the bobcat for hours, she made a request. May I see your kitten? Mary Ann fetched Maple, and when Dr. Reeve held the kitten near the window, something incredible happened. The bobcat stood. Soft chirping noise escaped her throat, not a growl. Not a threat. Something maternal, Doctor. Reeve nodded solemnly. This bobcat recently lost kittens. Probably all of them. She was likely nursing very recently.
Ow.
She doesn't think Maple is her own. But maternal instinct and grief are powerful forces. A highway 2 miles north had seen several wildlife deaths that week. Dr. Reeve suspected that's where she lost her. Litter Act 4. A new kind of fell rather than relocate her. Dr. Reeve proposed something bold. What if we try something different? And so, after home inspections, paperwork, and training, the Holloway family became licensed wildlife rehabilitation volunteers. They named the Bobcat Juniper, after the tree groves where bobcats make their dens. An enclosure was built. Part of the garage was converted into a temperature-controlled shelter with one-way glass. This wasn't about taming Juniper. It was about giving her space to heal. Juniper paced, cautious and restless. Maple watched from the window, crying softly. On day 10, Sophie was reading outside the enclosure, murmuring stories to the Aaron till she heard a chirp. Juniper had approached the fence. Eyes locked not on Sophie, but on Maple. The kitten pawed at the glass. Juniper responded with a low trill. What followed was a careful, weeks-long integration. Fences, barriers, gradual trust. And then, the miracle. Juniper began grooming Maple through the fence. Patient, gentle, protective, eventually. She followed Maple into the house. She's choosing this, Dr. Reeve whispered. Act 5. The bond that changed EVRY to Eich and Juniper adapted. She learned the rhythms of the house, the sound of dishwashers, the bark of the neighbor's dog. She curled beside Dr. Holloway as he read. She followed Marianne in the kitchen. She comforted Sophie on stressful nights. But her heart belonged to Maple. She taught Maple to stalk and pounce in toy mice and feather wands. She groomed her daily, shielded her during monsoons, shared every moment with her. They were never apart. A wild heart. A house cat. Perfectly bonded. Epilogue. Legends of the DSRTS. The seasons turned. Maple grew, but their connection only deepened. They spoke in chirps and body language, invented their own games, and curled together each night like puzzle pieces that didn't match but somehow fit. Researchers documented everything. Dr. Reeve wrote papers. Wildlife centers took note, but for the Holloways, this wasn't about science. This was about love. She gave Juniper a reason to trust again, Marianne once said. And Juniper gave Maple the mother she never had. And above the family fireplace hangs a photograph. Maple curled in Juniper's embrace, bathed in morning light, a wild creature, a house kitten. One family, and for all who hear their story, the message is simple. Sometimes love is not about blood or species. It's about healing, trust, and the courage to choose one another. Subscribe to Pawthos, where rescue meets the wild, and love always finds a way. Let this be your reminder. In a world too quick to divide, even the wildest heart can find a home.